everybody, welcome back. So for this video, we're going to be adding in a little bit of style. We're going to add a kind of a news content page, or sorry, a news content area that's going to allow a user to kind of know that they can get the news about bowling on this particular page, which in this case will be the home page. So the first thing we'll do is let's go in and add our HTML. And moving forward, I'm going to remove this H1 here. And let's go ahead and add in, we're going to add in a news class. And then inside of that news class, I'm going to add an H1. And let's call it bowling news. Okay. And that little bit of HTML and probably about 15, 14 lines of CSS, and you can have a pretty amazing look going on here. So for that, let's go ahead and let's bring this up so that we know what we're focusing on. So we're focusing on that news, bowling news area there. And all right, so in here, let's jump down to just underneath our join banner here, and we can add in our bowling news. Okay. And now for this, we're going to be adding in what's called a background image. Okay. And that's an image that is going to sit behind this text, and we're going to define that in the background. Okay. It's not going to be placed in your HTML like with an image tag. We're going to assign it to the background. Okay. And how we do that is we grab that news class, okay, and we open it up, and we're going to add a background. And then how you add a background image, it's pretty easy. Okay, this is the basic syntax right here. Okay, and all you're going to do is pull in the URL from your background image. So I already have the background image in my images folder, which is right here, news BG. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to call that. Currently, I'm in the CSS folder. And this is something else, a concept that you'll need to learn quickly in order to understand how websites are put together. Currently, I'm in the CSS folder. I'm in the style sheet. I have to exit the CSS folder and then go into the image folder and grab the news BG background. So how we do that is ... gets me out of the CSS folder. And then I have to put the / because I need to go into another directory. Now I can just mouse down. This is a nice part about VS Code or Sublime Text or whatever code editor you're using, and select the image path. And then I have two images to choose from in that folder. I choose the news BG. Okay. Now it's adding it in here, but it's not very pretty. So now we need to change how that looks. And we do that by first, we need to make sure that this image is not going to repeat, because if you don't set this, let me close this area over here. If you don't set no repeat, the image will repeat on the background. And then we also want it centered. Okay. And now we want to set a height, but you don't want to set an explicit height, meaning you don't want to use the height property. Instead, what we'll use is the minimum height property. And that minimum height means it'll be a minimum of whatever I set it to. In this case, it's going to be 222 pixels, but it will be at least that. It will never be less than that, but it could be more than that. If you set a height, if you use just the height property and not the min height, then it could affect how your site layout works. So we'll set the min height to 222 pixels, which is, it's actually the height of the image here. If I go to, let's see, news, and then I examine this background image, here you can see the rendered size is 770 wide by 222 pixels tall. So that 222 min height was not chosen at random. I wanted it to be the height of the image. So now I'm going to set this to display flex because I want to control the items within the news class, specifically the text bowling news. And that will allow me to control this. So we've got display flex. Let's align items center, and that's going to center it, okay, vertically centered. And now we want to set the horizontal center by doing justify content center. And now it's in the middle of what we're looking at. Now you might be noticing here that there is more space above than there is below, and that's because it's standard for browsers to set font size. In this case, we're getting a margin block start and a margin block end and a standard font size of 2EM. And you can remove that margin block start and margin block end. You can come all the way up to the top of your style sheet, and right about here, I would do H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. And you can set margin block start to 0 and margin block end to 0. And let's set let's see here. What else is being controlled? It's probably the font size. So if we set our H1 font size, set that to, let's say, 24 pixels. Oh, let's go a little bit higher. Let's go 32 pixels. And 36. And that looks like a good font size there. And now we are at the exact vertical center of the above and below of that image. There's equal spacing above and below the bowling news. But there's more that we're going to do with that bowling news. We're going to come in here and let's target the H1. Okay, so .news H1. And for this, I want to change the color to white. Actually, there was something else I wanted to do first. I want to create an overlay on top of the image, but under the text. Okay. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to use what's called a linear gradient. Okay. And basically, that is a linear gradient is this here. Linear gradient basically sets a color it's like a line. Imagine a thick line of color that takes up the entire space of this class news, and it goes from one color to another color. And we set that by I want my color to go to the right, okay? And I'm going to separate this with a comma, and I'm going to use RGBA. Okay, RGBA is red, green, blue, and I forgot what the A stands for, but basically it controls the opacity. I think it's called alpha. A is for alpha, and it controls the opacity. So in here, I want it to be black. And I want to set the opacity to 7 or 0.7. Okay, and then I have to set my second color. So for that, it's going to be 0, 0, 0. And I also want this to be 0.7. And then at the end here, I need to put a comma. because I'm going to be separating, I can show you here. I'm going to be separating this part of the background with this part of the background. Okay. And now I can target the text. Okay. So .news h1. And now I want to set that color to white as I was doing before. I want text transformation, uppercase. And I want letter spacing, 2 pixels. And I want to change the font weight to 300. Okay. And that's going to make it look really thin. Okay. I also want to add an accent. Okay. The accent is going to be on this letter G here. Okay. Just something to throw in there, give it a little bit of style. So how we do that is here with the G, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a span here. Okay. And I'm going to put the G inside there, and I can remove that G. So it still looks the same here, but now I'm going to target that span, and I'm going to style it. And I'm going to style it with this here. So .news h1 span, okay, because the span is nested inside of that h1. And I want to change the color to the same orange that I've been using throughout the site. Okay. And now you'll see that you'll get that bowling news there. Okay. Now, in this video, I'm not going to play with the desktop styles. So for now, you'll see this kind of with this large overlay. Ideally, I would cut this overlay off at the width here, right about here, so that we don't see it. And actually, we can do that now. So at 768 pixels wide, I want this width of the overlay, the background, to be no more than 768 pixels. So right here, I'll create a media query, screen and min width, 768 pixels. And I want to target the .news, open up the code brackets, and I want to set my max width to 768 pixels. Okay. And that will bring it to the side like this. But what we can do here is we can do a margin 0. Actually, let's do margin left, auto, margin right, auto, and that should put it back in the middle for us. So when I'm down here, okay, I'll have that overlay will display behind bowling news. But when I get to here, I won't, that overlay will not extend beyond what I want it to extend beyond to. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And then we'll continue to add maybe some cards. The next video, I'll add some news cards down here that'll show, maybe the latest news of the bowling alley where we practice, or international bowling news or something like that. So stay tuned. More videos are coming.